We'll get to the NBA Finals in a moment. I need to start with Max Granville. These are, when I talk about negotiating a season, it really is from the time you start in winter workouts through the spring, then the quote off-season workouts, then training camp, and then the season itself. This is why you need depth.
And it was announced, what you're referring to is Max Granville is dealing with a long-term injury. It was announced yesterday by James Franklin.
Right.
So,
and long-term means, okay, what are the other options? And that's my point. You need to negotiate, after watching a 16-game season last year, which happens to be unprecedented in Penn State football history. They never played more than 14 in a year. 2016, they played 14. And to do that, there are twists and turns and weeks or periods of time you're not going to have people. And Penn State had, to be honest with you, a fair amount of injuries last year. And Max Granville, a reclassified young player, you're watching him like, okay, he doesn't look like a kid. He plays well. He got himself into the rotation, and it should not be a surprise, at least it wasn't to us, that when Abdul Carter did get banged up in the Fiesta Bowl against Boise State, Max Granville was one of the options out there on the field in a playoff game, and he did more than hold his own. He played well. So there was a lot of hope about him making the next step forward. The weight room really helped him. He really had put on good weight, was set to go. And evidently, based on what James said yesterday, this happened at home. It did not happen here. So the options now, immediately the people I look to, like Jalen Harvey is one. That I look at, I think has great promise. Now, you already have Denai Dennis Sutton, Zariah Fisher.
Yeah,
so
those are your 1-2 still.
Okay? And Nate White, the transfer from Texas A&M, I thought it took him like 2 or 3 weeks to settle in the spring. It took a while. But then the last week, 10 days, I started seeing more of him making plays. Malachi Williams, maybe it's just because he wears 20, but he gives me an Adisa Isaac feeling as to how he plays the game. He did not play a down last year for Penn State, but he was also 4 times last year the scout team defensive player of the week.
So he's got something.
So he's got something that they're seeing. Look, they don't just nilly-dilly, willy-nilly hand out that, great, okay, it's his turn, give it to him. And so we'll see what he can do to be a part of it. So Williams, Anae White, Jalen Harvey. Those are some of the guys you look at. And I know a lot of people are looking at Daniel Jennings. I can't tell you anything about him. I just know he reclassified.
Even Camacho, I believe.
Yvonne Camacho. And we're walking out of Beaver Stadium after the walkthrough for the Blue-White game, and I said, "Hey, let's go through the pronunciation of your name." I said, because after watching you in the spring, you're definitely playing tomorrow, Blue-White game, and then we'll see how it plays out. But I want to make sure we get it right. Camacho had a really, for a true freshman, he had a very, very good true freshman spring. And you're like, he's got something to him. All right. Now, does he have enough now in training camp to then earn the trust and get on the field? Where Deion Barnes can look at him and Greg Gattuso can look at him and go, okay, what do you think? Right. But he's another guy that should get a long look at that spot. They have talent there. They may not have experience. Even Jalen Harvey has limited experience. And Nate White has experience. Williams has no game experience. Camacho has no game experience.
The game experience is Denai Dennis Sutton and Zariah Fisher, and then the bits and pieces of everyone else.
Zariah Fisher is,
he's going to be there.
He is a very, very good player. Just has to keep himself out there. He's just, and look, his injuries have been, That's why when I've spoken to groups, I've said if you wanted to pick a guy to root for openly for, Zariah Fisher's that guy because of the kind of person he is, the kind of work ethic he has, that he's encountered some bad fortune along the way, and now maybe it can turn and be some good fortune for him, which would be good for Penn State. So those are some of the guys off the top of my head that I'm thinking of that have an opportunity there.
We got time to see how it's going to play out because the first game isn't. We still have 3 months,
right?
Pretty much.
I mean, it's something you just don't want to see happen. And Oregon just had that happen.
Evan Stewart,
same thing. And this is for them. He was the number one option at wide receiver for them returning. The most productive player. For Malachi Moore, this is a guy he was going to really depend on. And Evan Stewart has a long-term situation that, and they're blunt about it. They're saying, look, he's out for the year.
Yeah, they've said he's out for the season. They're saying it is a lower body injury, which is just never good. And he apparently tore his patellar tendon is what they're looking at.
Yeah.
So it is not good. He's going to be out the entire season. And one would suspect, because he was probably going to be a draft pick this coming season, was going to go.
Yes.
The question now comes in, does he stay for another year to try and get his stock back up? So Evan Stewart is now out for the season, which is, as you said, big for Oregon. Penn State will see them in September. So
September 27th for the whiteout.
The question then becomes who is going to be the next group up, of course, because Tez Johnson's gone to the NFL.
Right.
So you've got guys like Decorian Moore and others who might be the next group up.
Right.
In Eugene. So injuries are happening.
Which you don't want. It's something I never want to see. I've always been of the thought I want to see your best against their best.